Parvin I'm a culinary student. I should say, I still am, because life is a journey and we're always learning. But I'm currently working as a line cook. I've been a sous chef, all the bells and whistles to graduating culinary school. But over here, I have my man.
Yo, que lo que mi gente? My name is George Duran. Shout out to my Dominicans. I'm a first-gen Dominican immigrant.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Mr. Georgie Porgy. How does that nursery rhyme go?
Georgie Porgy, pudding in a pie. Kiss all the girls.
I love that shit. All right. All right, so first question I got. I'd like for you to describe the meal initially. You can go through all of its components.
All right, so to describe the meal initially, we have some white rice, arroz blanco, with some stewed beans, so habichuela guisada, and then the stewed chicken, which is the pollo guisado, with some plantains, some sweet plantains, and a nice little side salad. And in this case, it was like cabbage and tomato and avocado. Something simple, but some oil and vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
This dish, rice, beans, chicken, that's called la bandera, which means like the flag. Which I did not know, but I learned from like researching it for this video specifically. And for breakfast we usually have like mango with salami and the fried cheese.
The mashed plantain.
Exactly. That's called tres golpes, which means like the three hits, or like you know what I mean?
I like that.
And so I don't know. It's just kind of funny. Like Dominicans are usually kind of suave or smooth with their
everything's a little sexual. Isn't
everything's a little has a little swag to it. And that's just how Dominicans like to move, right? That's just how they operate. So
I feel it. I see it, man. Just the way you're looking at me right now, man. What does the dish mean to you? Like, where does this take you when you eat this dish?
I mean, this specific dish takes me way back, right? So like the rice, the beans, the protein, right? The earliest memories I have are just, of my grandma and my mom in the kitchen. My grandma specifically is peeling garlic and then smashing it in a pilon, and really like making a paste out of the garlic. This is a dish that I was fortunate enough to eat basically every day. So we didn't eat out much, right? Because we were broke, and Dominicans like to throw down. So my mom typically would cook this meal, I'd say like 6 out of 7 days out of the week, pretty much. And maybe Sunday was like the one day where she wouldn't cook this. But even then, even still, most Sundays we were eating some variation of this dish.
Wait, why Sunday specifically?
Oh, because you go to church. And then you leave church and let's go to eat, or let's go to a relative's house to eat. But if you go to a relative's house to eat, guess what they're making, right? It's like something similar to this, right? Or if it's wintertime, we'll eat sancocho, which is like a Dominican stew. But yeah, typically eating something like this.
I got you. Does guisado directly translate to anything in English? Does it refer to the ingredients, or is it referring to the style of cooking or the method?
I think it definitely refers to the method of cooking, which it means like a braising or a stewing. And so typically, similar ingredients are represented, whether it's the beans or a different style of protein, right? You can do this with chicken, you can do this with beef, you can do this with shrimp. You can basically do this with any protein, right? And then you can serve it with rice or with moro, which is like the party rice, the Dominican party rice. It's always at parties.
With the pigeon peas.
The pigeon peas, right? Or you can do black beans as well. And yeah, or you can have it with mofongo, or just mashed up plantains, the mango as well. So typically that's when you would have it.
So you mentioned, eating this and, remembering when you were younger. So as a kid, when you had the meals like this, did you have any experiences with friends over, like whether they were black, white, or other Dominicans? Like, did you have a lot of friends trying this food as well?
Yeah, so it's funny because, when you're growing up, you don't realize like how fire this food is, or how rare it is when you leave like, New York, New Jersey, like, well, in our case, Rhode Island, Providence specifically. So like when you are in other places of the US, like you can't find this version of this Caribbean food, right? It's just impossible. And so, you don't realize how good you have it until you grow up and you have to go out and leave the nest. And then growing up, I think the first kind of non-Dominican friends I had come through and eat my mom's cooking was like, I think the very first one might have been like Ben Smith and Jordan Van Leesten during high school. And shout out to Ben Smith. He came through, I think it was like before a baseball practice. My mom had throw down, and he wanted everything. He wanted the rice, the beans, the meat, the avocado. And so, my mom absolutely was thrilled that he was so willing to try everything and enjoyed everything. So shout out to Ben Smith. And yeah, of course, Jordan came through and tried it as well, in very similar experience. And so it's funny because like when you're younger, you're not like, oh, this food is fire, like this is the best food ever. You just kind of eat it and like, yeah, it's good. Like we eat every day. And then once different people start trying the food, and then you start getting to know other people's culture, you can start appreciating your own food a little bit more, for sure.
That's awesome. I got you. I'll say in my past experience with cooking this type of cuisine, I've noticed a lot that a lot of the recipes that you make, they call for seasoning packets or seasoning, like specific seasonings, like the Saison or the adobo, and typically they're like Goya products and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Has this always been part of the cooking, or was it something that was adapted like later on and like it's?
So a little fun history lesson. The base that you started with, Parvin, to marinate the chicken, like I said previously, it's usually blended, and that's often the base for many Dominican dishes, especially proteins. You might know it as sofrito. You can keep it in the fridge after you blend it to shorten the process of creating it, right? So it's more accessible, more ready to use. And then as for seasoning packets, adobo comes from the word adobar, which means to marinate. And so the spice or seasoning mix that you see in adobo, European colonialists would use similar ingredient blend to preserve meats and to pickle meats. And so, of course, those flavors or that combination, that specific adobo made its way to the Caribbean. And it'll be, an adobo in DR might be different than an adobo in Puerto Rico or in Mexico. So adobo or sazon as seasoning packets just speeds up the process. And so, of course, as Dominicans began to immigrate to the U.S., we needed to find quicker ways to season our meat. And so those seasoning packets were just a faster way to make sure that we're seasoning our meats, preserving them, marinating them, getting ready to cook. And so that's a little bit of the history about the seasoning packets. And my mom is very loyal to the maji, like the bouillon cubes,
Yes,
not the Goya itself.
My father actually messes with that a lot.
Yeah.
Browning seasonings and all that stuff.
Yeah, my mom is like very loyal to that brand specifically. So that's like something for our family that like we typically use. Like she doesn't mess with the Goya one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because like when I was learning how to cook growing up, living on your own, you're trying to recreate these recipes. I was like, yo, I can never make my mom's food taste like my mom's food, right? And I'd follow the recipe. Well, I'm sure Ghanaians are very similar. Like we don't measure I'm like, Mom, how much of this should I add? And she's like, I don't know. Like,
You put in enough.
exactly. Like, just throw it in there. And I'd always say, like, it's the pans I'm using or it's the stove I'm using. Like, that's why I can't get it to taste like my mom's. And then my mom would come visit me and cook for me using my own shit. And guess what? It would taste exactly like how she's always made it with all of the stuff in my house. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what the secret is to get it to taste like hers. But I think the secret ingredient is just love, It's just love. And that always comes out in these types of meals. Cheers. You said you don't like the thing, dude.
All right, so let's go like this. Ready? Cheers. So like clink, cheers.
Okay.
Like clink, one, cheers.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Cheers.
Dude, you said not to do it.
I know. Why is everything so funny when you're fucking up? Yeah. Oh man, at least we have some more material. Do you want to do one more where I don't fuck it up?
Okay, ready?
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Cheers.